Blog Talk Radio.
If you got it, then flaunt it, and be loved, then you taunt it. Just cause you know I'm on it. I see through your disguise, it's all in between your eyes. It hides in your lies, and your shitty alibis. I know you ask me, is this nigga for real? My passion beats through my zeal to make all my haters kneel. Lick the shit off my heel, I sit upon a gold throne. Has made of microphones and crushed up bones. I turn your headphones into the Astrodome. At game time, rain or shine, I shine just like the jet reclines. I find when I walked into the door, looked at me and you was looking kinda sore. But I asked what was wrong, you didn't want to tell me. But then you just started yelling at me. But I started walking through the door. No more will you talk to me like that, cause we not even in it like that. Yo, yeah, can we be friends without fucking? Can we be cool without it leading up to nothing? Can I know that you not trying to flip it, try to set it up like I was trying to hit it, or play it like I rejected it? Just maybe you could keep some respect in it. And now my name and character, you trying to reckon it. Yo, I would be your friend, but now I'm hesitant. Hey, yo, the cries of a broken heart fall like leaves, and that they fall to the ground and blow away in the breeze. So women fall to their knees, cause they lost the keys of forgotten innocence. Sweet life, not chomp, but incense. Pretense, past tense, present tense. Around the heart she built a fence, and used sex as a defense. And ever since, any man or woman tried to love her, they preyed on her common sense. But as a queen born, she's still a woman scorned. She gotta make it right, but how can if he's gone? The bigger the road, the smaller the thorn. That's how the shit goes down in the hood where you trying to be around for a shorty that is not your girl. But that's the how it go in society or world. But I'ma be there for you, even though I don't like all the things that you putting me through. But yo, yeah, can we be friends without fucking? Can we be cool without it leading up to nothing? Can I know that you not trying to flip it, try to set it up like I was trying to hit it, or play it like I rejected it? Just maybe you could keep some respect in it. And now my name and character, you trying to reckon it. Yo, I would be your friend, but now I'm hesitant. Hey yo, don't blame the baker when the butcher baked the bread. When you need to go, but your light's on red. I'm trying to be your friend, but it's hard to ignore the little subtle glances when you walk through the door. The closed door of hugs, but your eyes are saying more. Cool with my queen, however, what's it really for? Or is it just me? Am I bugging? Is all the time we spending together? Your wrist is leading to fucking, but yo, something ain't right, so I'ma be polite and bow out of the friendship gracefully and the friendship tastefully. As I walk through the door, I realized the flaw. In that moment, I was a man walking out the door. Then she started screaming at me like she did before, as if I was the man she was really looking for. I chose to give her the floor. As I walked in the night, I hoped that she would be alright. But yeah, can we be friends without fucking? Can we be cool without it leading up to nothing? Can I know that you not trying to flip it, try to set it up like I was trying to hit it, or play it like I rejected it? Just maybe you could keep some respect in it. And now my name and character, you trying to reckon it. Yo, I would be your friend, but now I'm hesitant. Hey yo, can we?
Peace, Super Heru family of planet Earth. You're now tuning live to the Heru Radio. I'm your host, Aseer the Tears, along with my co-host and leader, the Empress of 10,000 Years, my brother, Saga Sai, a more Black Heart, the Prince of Tears, and all of you out there. Thank you again for tuning in once again, as we always do on Monday night, to make sure that we bring as much clarity as we can to our present listening. Has clarified so many things that are going down, and also to keep our position, or I should say, to create a situation where we always maintain what our super position is, based upon the super objective, which is freedom. You know what I'm saying? So I want to give thanks and praise and honors to Abundant Energy Natural Market in Miami Gardens, Florida, for the lecture we had yesterday, and all the people who came out. It's a really good turnout. You know what I'm saying? I want to give thanks to everybody that came and represented and built with us on, again, bringing greater clarity to all of the things that are befalling us right now in terms of our worldview. And just want to give thanks and praise again to all of those people who are doing the work consistently to try to bring clarity through the abundance of confusion that has been abound in our quote-unquote movement, if we still want to call it that, for the past, since 2008. So based on that, you know what I'm saying, we want to definitely give thanks and praise to those people who have been able to stay above controversy and stay out of it, you know what I'm saying, as much as they can, given the present circumstances of the fact that most people, a lot of people ain't listening to you unless you're involved in shit. So also for those people who are agents or provocateurs or whatever in the community, get right, man. Stop producing all of the falsehood for the people. Stop creating situations where people are beholden to you for information that's basically going to get them turned out. You know what I mean? Locked up, disenfranchised, or whatever. Stop doing the work of the devil for him, man. If he want to set niggas up and he want to create situations to get people caught up, if those people get caught up, then cool, let that happen. But don't be the one that got to be there helping set up everybody and helping put the people in situations, because that's what actually breaks the spirit more than the devil doing it. Is the fact that when you find out that it's your own people, man, there's a form of disconnect that happens from that, meaning that you realize that you can't even trust members of your community that look like you. And that creates isolation syndromes, you know what I'm saying? It creates isolation issues, paranoia issues, you know what I'm saying, schizophrenia issues. And you don't even know that you'd be beset by these things, but because you've been betrayed so many times by people who look like you in your community, it's almost a disenfranchising thing where you decide that you no longer want to be preyed on by members of the community, so you start doing the preying on. You see what I'm saying? And that don't help nobody. So in order for us to break the wicked cycle of what we see going on, we got to start with ourselves. And therefore, whatever agent provocateurs that exist in the community still and have been for a long time, I pray that the ancestors basically create the forum for them to be exposed so that we know exactly who is who. Because that's really what's holding up progress too, y'all, is the fact that we have too many people running around here acting like they for the people and for the movement. And that's not what it is. There's actually a whole other clandestine view in that. I mean, you got to really understand that we are what's called or what is considered counterculture. Understand? So when you have people from our community who grew up watching the same tapes, listening to the same lectures and all that stuff that we all did, now these niggas is talking about, a lot of that shit is conspiracy theory, or even age-old truths that we have basically have agreed or really just foregone conclusions, you know what I mean, or unspoken truths are now being redistributed and remastered to you and remixed to you in different ways for you to get, again, caught up in a way of what could actually happen, or what is actually promised to you. Okay? One of the big things that's going down is that there's these two pigs in South Carolina now, being that we're moving closer to 2012, two pigs specifically who are trying to create speed traps and trying to create different ways to deal with, quote-unquote, what they refer to as sovereign citizens, okay? Now, sovereign citizens are not national, you understand? Sovereign citizens have nothing to do with the national divine movement, with the divine national movement that the Prophet Noble Ali set up before any of these, most of these groups that's talking this shit today even existed. You understand? So what the Prophet was doing in terms of nationality and things like that was totally different than what these people are talking about. And if you notice, whenever sovereignty comes up, the next the very next word behind that is dealing with money. You understand? But what we have to understand is that these people who are calling themselves sovereign citizens, and these people who basically did this, and again, we've been reporting this for Super Heru Radio almost from the beginning, is the fact that most of these quote-unquote Caucasian people or whatever who started this whole sovereign citizen or sovereignty thing or whatever was really basically about trying to find ways to break into the Federal Reserve. You have to remember, sovereign doesn't necessarily mean king. In its original context, only a sovereign was a king specifically who dealt with gold and in gold, okay? So sovereign is not another way of saying freedom, all right? We over here, as Moors from the Americas, we always dealt with freedom more than anything else, you understand? Because like I said, over there, they fight for one king. Over here, we always kings. We always sharing what we had. There were no jails here. You know what I'm saying? We didn't build prison houses for our people. Nobody was under the pain of death and torture and rape and all of that shit that was going on in the colonies or whatever, as well as the plantations and stuff. So what we have to do is make the delineation to understand why these things came into the proper context or this improper venue for context in terms of American liberty and how the American liberty was basically supplanted with erroneous gestures of foreign people accessing or trying to access our lands by getting us to conform to foreign nationalities. Understand? So, regardless of who or what, quote-unquote sovereign citizens are not Moors. You understand? Because Moors don't have to deal with sovereignty. Because Moors are absolute. You understand? You don't have to deal with sovereignty when you know that you was already here first. The only time you start dealing with sovereignty or whatever is when. Now, if you're looking at sovereign in terms of the context of royalty, nobility, royalty or whatever, then that's something different. You know, that's what that would be another name of a king. But specifically, no king can truly be recognized as a sovereign unless he has gold bricks or access to gold bars or whatever. Also, Elder Moore blessed me with the knowledge of the fact that the original term sovereign, when you look in old Beauvair's dictionaries and all of that, was spelled with an A, not an E. So it wasn't sovereign or sovereign or reign. It was sovereign. You understand? And again, the little flip of the A into the E creates a whole different venue for the word. So in the old dictionary or whatever, sovereign, you know what I'm saying, that again was somebody who was in league with a king who had access to huge quantities of gold. Now, we know that the United States government is barred from using the gold that they have because the gold that they have is basically connected to us. And due to documents like House Joint Resolution 75, House Joint Resolution 331, the quote-unquote North Main Act, all of this gold and all that stuff has to be held for us in escrow until we get to a point where we reconstitute the true American Republic. Only the L's and the B's can do that, but not the L's and the B's coming from the foreign jurisdiction, meaning L's and the B's that's representing the dominions that were annexed to the original emperor or the Emperor Mohammed bin Abdullah of 1791, as spoken of in the letter that George Washington wrote to the Emperor Morocco, again, trying to create a foreign jurisdiction for the Moors that was already here. Being that the Moors was already here, was going through their own changes, he basically had to fall under the jurisdiction of the other Moors from the old world because they were the ones that was doing most of the slave trafficking or whatever on this side of the planet. Now, I saw some clip the other day somebody put up, and it was talking about how the word Moor is actually a Greco-Roman word and blah, blah, blah. But what we have to understand when we say that, and that basically Moor or Africans didn't call themselves Moors. But when you really listen to that statement, like look at what's being said. You're saying that the word Moor, which, and again, is a old English way of saying black, which I don't really have a problem with per se. Black meaning melanated, not black meaning varnished over, colored, or dyed. But in that context, then, you know, Moor is something else. However, if you're saying that the word more then is a Greco-Roman word, then and that word in a sense don't exist, then you're also using words like Greco and Roman that don't really exist in that context to justify what it is you're saying. So again, if we're saying that the word more is a Greco-Roman word, then by definition, that whole statement is an oxymoron because there was no such place as Greece. Number one, you know what I'm saying? Just like there's no such word or place as Africa. We understand Africa as a word of art that represents those people in the continent, but if you speak to somebody from the continent and you ask them where they're from, they're going to give you the country of origin, not the overall continent itself, if they have an idea of their national sense, you know what I mean? So regardless of who or what, it's really about what context you put everything into is what makes it what it is, for the most part. So in that, when we say Greco or Roman, what we really have to say is Etruscan or Minoan. Okay, let's start using the words for what they really were. The Etruscans, the Minoans, the Dorians, the Corinthians, or whatever, all the way up until maybe the Hellenists. Once we get to the Hellenistic term, then that's when we start dealing with the amalgamated or remnants of what would become the amalgamated empire coming into existence, trying to show its dominance over the older peoples of the world. Understand? So, again, you know what I mean? We got to just keep things clear. Another thing that's going on, our peeps, so with that now, like I said, South Carolina, North Carolina, they have these two detectives. If you go to my Facebook page, Aseer Ali Cordoba, you'll see the pictures of them in the article that I put up so you can see. And basically they're talking about different strategies and how they could deal with this, because every time they deal with one of them and one of us or one of the quote-unquote sovereign citizens put a lien on them, you see what I'm saying, for $70 million and all of that, the officers got to deal with that. The state comes away from that and kind of leaves them by themselves. So in that, the state winds up losing huge amounts of money based upon the fact that they can't justify the fact that they don't really have the right to lock anybody up that's not a 14th Amendment citizen. Yet these militiamen and these people started to realize way back in around 1982 that there would be no way for them to actually do the stuff legally that they were really talking about doing. You know what I'm saying? So what they realized is that the only people that could actually claim anything real of an autonomous nature in the Americas are the Moors, specifically, the Bays and the L's, you know what I'm saying? And so what they started to do was do a campaign to start to infiltrate the Moorish movement through the Shriner connection of some of the grand sheiks of these Moorish science temples, who, through their Freemasonic affiliation as Shriners, were able to hook up with those Scottish Rite militiamen, a.k.a. sovereign citizens, who were now trying to act like they was hipping the Moors for certain ideas in terms of getting a chargeback, redemption, acceptance for value, all the other stuff. And that's when all of the Moors started getting deep into that. So if you really look at the historical records of how the Moorish Science Temple or just Moors in general was moving in the Americas, you would see that somewhere around between 83 and like 97, 98 is when everything switched from a national divine character, you know what I mean, to a way that we could get access to the Secretary of Treasury so we could get our lien on and our money and this, and that. Therefore, the divine national movement was then supplanted by those, quote-unquote, people who just who were in the nation, who were in the movement, who may have been Moors, but also being on the fact that they had dual allegiances as being Shriners and stuff. This brought them or bring them into contact with those white members of the Scottish Rite Lodges who also happen to be patriots. And they basically all agreed to work together. And so this is when the national character of a lot of the Moorish Science temples began to change, and it started to get involved into, like I said, UCC and all of that. But we got to remember when the UCC came out. UCC came out in 1957, right? The last Moorish console that closed down in America, got closed down by 1960. But in 1956, the Free Behold by Inheritance Political Status AA1 was established, in which the remnants of the old empire of those of us that remember it had the ability to reconstitute their status and all of that, and thereby have the right to do it ever since. Yet, to do that, you had to get a national body politic together on that, and because of, again, the influx of all of these so-called black Masons who made deals behind the scenes with a lot of these Scottish white Freemasons. You see what I'm saying? Acting like they've given them knowledge. This is what swerved the movement into a different strata. So we went from, so when you look at the historical aspect of where these white boys come from, you're talking about these white boys originally come from the Sons of Tammany, Sons of St. Tammany. After the Sons of St. Tammany, they became the Sons of Liberty. After the Sons of Liberty, they become the Sons and Daughters of the American Revolution. After that, they become the Knights of Pythias. After the Knights of Pythias, they become the Knights of the Golden Circle. After the Knights of the Golden Circle, they become the Mystic Order, the Mystic Knights of Pythias. Then they become the Mystic Knights of the Ku Klux Klan. Then after the Ku Klux Klan, when all of that starts getting downhill or whatever, they start to what they call the white labor unions. And then from the white labor unions, they start to create what they call militiamen. And then from the militiamen movement, you get the Patriot movement. And then once the Patriot movement reaches crescendo by involving itself with the Moors, with those corrupted Moors and those people that was trying to do all the UCC paperwork and all that other shit, they were basically rewarded and upgraded by the United States government by absorbing them mainstream into an organization called the Tea Party that then got reabsorbed into what we now today call the so-called present Republican Party. But the original Republican Party was set up by the original Republic Moors, what they call the Black Republicans, who were knocked down with the Democrats, a.k.a. the Ku Klux Klanmen, coming into the game and doing all the shit they did. People don't know. There's more registered members of Democrats who are KK members than Republicans. You understand? Now, this don't mean that the Republican Party is our Republican Party. Of course it's not. They're both active. Yet, one, because it got a black president, you think it's not Nazi, when really it's more Nazi than the other. You know what I'm saying? But, again, based upon historical meanderings and people don't understand how things start, this is why it's popular. So when these crackers realized that they could not be anything else, that they really could not be sovereign, that they really could not claim anything else, because the farther you go back, the more into slavery, into their slavery you go. And so, again, it wasn't until Chief Tamanan agreed to allow them, meaning our Morisco brothers and sisters or Franciscan brothers and sisters, and their slaves to live here. And because he gave the way, in a sense, for naturalization for the denizen Moors, meaning the Moriscos and those Moors who were ruling the colonies and plantations on behalf of the king, it was a different argument in terms of these people, freeing themselves and then putting us under the jurisdiction. That came way later. We started falling under the occupation of these Caucasian people way later than we even are giving ourselves credit for. I'm talking about after the Union of 1865, meaning the Civil War, which led to that. You understand? You got to remember, there's a book you got to get called The Forgotten Cause of the Civil War. Don't let them make you think that the shit was about freeing black slaves. It wasn't about that. It was about freeing white slaves. The black slaves that you're talking about were African POWs, as well as, quote-unquote, African POWs that were getting sold back and forth based upon the deterioration of the old Moorish Empire and the old dominions in the old world, as well as those POWs that were working on behalf of the original United States, the USB instead of the USA. The USB was the United States of Barbary. You understand? So the first United States in the world, again, was the United States of Barbary, per se, in the modern context. And therefore, the United States basically just followed suit behind that. Understand? Therefore, like I'm telling you, these crackers don't have nothing new. So because they're starting to realize that they are really not Americans, that they're really not ancestry from here, I don't give a damn how far back they go. If you go back to a point where one of your elders was on a boat coming over here, you're not from here. According to the United States, that's how it works. According to the Republic, the American Republic. But what's happening is that we actually have the federal arm of the government basically just running amok and acting like it is the government itself, and it's not. It is subordinate to the Republic. Therefore, for the United States to call itself a democracy, a demonocracy, a demonstrative government, means that it is not a government itself. You understand? Therefore, the United States, again, United States citizens are 14th Amendment citizens. Americans are something totally different, because the United States of America is different than the United States for America. The term of in the United States means pertaining to or cut off from. Of. So it could be the United States of America, meaning the United States is established of American people, right? But that is totally different than the United States for America, meaning the United States was created for the American people. Yet when you put of in there, meaning pertaining to or cut off from, you then can look at it in the context where it is now. The United States of cut off from America. You understand? So you've already had, when they talk about, oh, there's never going to be one of these Illuminati, you've already had these niggas being president. You already had you already had Rockefeller as a president. But instead of you calling him Rockefeller, they called him Calvin Coolidge. You know what I mean? Same thing with, what's his name? All of these people, they've been bringing Nazis and these people over here. They've been doing what they're doing. It's just that we don't understand, or we've been put in the proper context because we're taking this quote-unquote American history as it's a literal thing, when really it's an imaginative invention. You got to remember, the United States was invented. And after the Union of 1865, in which white supremacy was going to be the predominant aspect of it, it was necessary for them to create a culture in which they could be perpetually in control. That culture of tricks and lies was taught to them by Yafu. But again, Yafu, being a black man, shows you that there was always anything that they're doing, even to our detriment, is nothing that they can do by themselves. So, like I said, brothers and sisters, it's to the point now where they don't really have a real semblance of how to deal with stuff, being that the United States is about to go through so many changes. After December 21st, 2012, you have to understand the fourth dimension now becomes realized in everybody, which means the fourth dimension, which again is a transient dimension, is something that is something, as much as I could, you can check it. And when you look at the whole thing, you'll see that it really boils down to how it is you perceive the events as they come into play in context. You know? So regards to what it is they want to make it look like, in the end, the country itself has already passed its receivership. So the new government has to be implemented, but it cannot be implemented by any members of the government that's in there today, because all members who are representing you in quote-unquote government today are traitors, because none of them are upholding the duties of which they have been prescribed to do. Because they all have secret allegiances, titles of nobility, things like that that only we could confer on them for them to be seen as valid. You can't be a knight and serve in the United States government, because we specifically forbade titles of nobility of any quote-unquote crackers or white slaves coming into the game, just to protect ourselves in the future from these people trying to usurp the throne, which they did anyway. But we still, those tenets to preserve that and keep everything separate in that context still exist. Like, people don't know, this dude, Colin Powell, was knighted. You know what I'm saying? This dude, George Bush and them, was knighted. These people are foreign agents of a foreign power. And just because they black don't mean that either. For you to have an African-American president, literally, meaning this nigga's from Africa, Kenya, and he'd be a president, means that they would rather have a foreign domestic black person in control of the country than a domestic one. And that question is why? We more black. Herman Cain was more black than that nigga. But because Herman Cain represented, again, this black Mason deal, and these black Masons who agreed to lampoon themselves and play themselves like the Shriners Act, like they just a party organization and shit, when really these niggas, again, harvesting organs out of the Shriners hospitals and everything else. And it's real serious, man. These niggas don't really know what's going down. But again, so you got all these different Moors now going over all these different documents, all these different things that ain't had nothing to do with the original joints that was filed and founded by the original prophet and the prophet's translator, CMB, basically the reinstitutor of the so-called Great Seal, Prophet Destiny, which is the government of the Moors on this side of the world, of Alamarcanos. You know what I'm saying? So all I'm really saying is just clarify your position. Clarify where you're coming from with this knowledge. And don't just throw shit out there just to make people doubt what they've already come to understand as truth, especially if you're just doing it to shock value. Of course, if people come out and start saying things that sound totally preposterous, mad people going to bang on them, because that's what people do when it comes to anything new or anything that challenges their perception. But at least let the challenge of what it is they're perceiving be real. Don't let it be some shit you're just making up, because that's what your crew chief, the nigga you're taking the orders from, you know what I mean, it's telling you to now pump into the community, you know what I mean? You got to understand, people, and again, I'm not trying to isolate anybody, I'm trying to talk about things in as a general manner as possible. You got to understand there's certain Moorish teachings and there's certain teachings that we had here that represented us that our brothers and sisters was killed. And I'm not talking about civil rights shit. I'm talking about shit like the black man is God. And how many people was interned and put into insane asylums and all that type of shit behind that? The white man, the devil. You know how many black people died just to uphold that because they wasn't willing? How many black people was tortured and all that? Just because they was not willing to falter from that one truth that they held? You know how many original people was being hunted and murdered because they would not stop wearing their feathers and would not stop dressing in their true regalia, while the rest of these so-called Moors or indigenous Moors started becoming traders and opening up trading posts and all this other shit with these foreigners coming over here and shutting you down? And these Africans come over here and they start treating the so-called black Americans or people from the Caribbean come here and start looking down on you like you the worst thing in the world because you a black man from America. When all these motherfuckers come here and want to be you, you got to really understand. They playing themselves. They ain't playing you. You got a right as a black man and black woman in this country to be fucking lazy if you want. You got a right to do that. You know why? Because if it wasn't for you, nobody in this whole fucking planet would be here. And I can say that with impunity to any nation, to any phenotypical person in the world. If your country was so good, then your ass wouldn't be coming here. And if you come in here, you're supposed to pay homage to the people who let you come here in the first place from time immemorial. And that's the original Asiatic black man and woman of North, Central, and South America and the Caribbean islands. So those quote-unquote people from the Caribbean islands are still trying to fall into this pseudo-African jargon bullshit lie that they brought you over here as slaves from Africa and then killed all the Arawaks and Tainos, man. Get over it, man. It's not true. It's not true. You was always here. You understand? Don't let people move you with a pen. You know what I'm saying? Don't let them mess up your history because that's what they say happened. How is it this crack of this devil to lie to you and everybody else on the planet for over 250 years, but then little things like Columbus Day and all this other shit, this shit's still going on. People still celebrating this shit. Any Italian-American that's still celebrating Columbus Day need to get slapped in their face, man. Because let's keep it real. That nigga wasn't even Italian. That nigga Colon wasn't even Italian. That place did not become Italy, really, until your man Mussolini got up in there, when they redrew everything after World War II. What do you think they keep blowing and bombing all these countries and these places in the world for? So they can just redo the history again and keep you further away from real knowledge. This nigga Columbus that wasn't even his name. You understand? But anything to celebrate a lie in this country will do. Because black people don't want to stand up for nothing. Because a lot of their spirits is broke, man. And because, again, we follow behind these foreign people, we always looking to Africa, always looking to Africa, always looking to Africa, man. And I'm not saying there's nothing necessarily wrong with that, but there's something displacing with that. There's something crazy. That's like if you got your own mansion, your own house, and then you beefing the fact that the nigga next door got 10 more rooms than you, but you live in a mansion. What you worried about what he got for? Like I said, right now, in your mind, if I ask you, name 3 African kings, you can name some. If I ask you, name 3 original Asiatic or autochthonous kings from here in America, you could name 1. That means that you have a spell on you. That means that somebody is hiding your history from you. That means that these damn casino Indians that you keep looking for and you keep thinking is supposed to validate you, how could they validate you when they are descendants from slaves? Why you think they opening casinos? They got to open casinos because they can't open nothing cultural, because everything cultural they set up. And I've been to these reservations. I've seen some, especially in Santa Fe and the Pueblo and all of that. Them Indians are putting on a goddamn show. Them white people come up in there, and these Indians be dancing in front of buck dancing. They be charging enormous amounts of money for the architecture, for the art stuff they're selling them. Then they take them to the casino, get them drunk. Then in the casino, you got people in the casino, you got natives in the casino doing rain dances to bring money. So when they talk about making it rain in the club, where do you think this is coming from? It's coming from these casino niggas going to these casino Indians, and they doing rain dances so that way the money can start raining down on their tribes and their bands. That's what it is. These niggas is not cultural. Again, they descend from the same quote-unquote Caucasian that was raping and killing them and blowing them up and all of that. The Moors, that was the original people, the autochthonous nations that was destroyed and killed during Wounded Knee. You understand? Was the illest. But what does your boy do, the president? He go on TV and he say that the only Holocaust that ever happened in the... Nah, you can open it. Yeah. Yeah, this dude, man. This dude then goes on TV and says what? That the only Holocaust that ever existed on the planet was what happened to the goddamn Jews. Are you crazy, nigga? Are you crazy? Yes, he is. Because, again, he's an African-American. He don't have his real sense. He don't know who he is. They still got him thinking that white woman is his mother. The white woman that you seen butt-ass naked in the pictures that Frank Marshall Davis put up. You really think they would let Bush's mother leak pictures of Bush's mother like that? Man, these dudes is crazy. But again, he's a foreigner, so he'll represent that too. You know what I'm saying? Like I said, Herman Cain was more of an original nigga than him. But look what's going on now. Look what's going on now. You got the African-American president in a battle for the presidency of the United States against the Mormons, right? So you got the Moor versus the African, right? But neither one of them are Moors. How do you have that? Don't you see the ritual? Don't you see the symbolism? Don't you see the simulacra that is orchestrating this whole thing? Meanwhile, you can't go on Facebook without seeing some black people without calling themselves an L or a Bay now, which is great. But let's get it straight. Let's not just take it in name and not do shit with it. Let's not just do it so we don't have to pay taxes and get out of child support and shit. Let's start doing it to reconstitute something real. But see, once you start talking shit like that, that's when these other provocateurs in the community start talking to you about other shit, tax liens and how to flip houses and all this other type of shit like that. That's all great, but that's not going to help us in the long term. What's helping us in the long term, man? We just rock different. Some of us just rock different because of that, and then we wonder why we don't all get along. We don't get along because we all not the same people just because we melanated, man. That
doesn't mean that everybody can't have a portion of paradise that exists for themselves.
Yeah, but everybody got one, it seemed like, except us. How is it that everybody else, you can go to, if I want to go to Africa right now.
Right, I just mean people here. Like I'm saying that is a possibility. I think that one thing that is a little bit difficult is that there is this whole hum that everybody has to be under the same umbrella.
That's communism.
The same moniker. Yeah, but it also makes people feel like we're all the same. If you have somebody that's not standing in the same boat and you've established your own, it's like, well, come on mine. And, 300 people on that boat and only 2 people on mine, that look like that's where the party popping. So everybody might want to go to that boat. And if the 2 people that are on mine are like, you know what, this is a fucking boring boat ride, I want to go to where it's popping, then you have to be strong enough to let people do that and not convince them that your ride is the best ride. Let everybody enjoy where they're at and let them be there. But when I am shining on my solo boat, it's almost like there's a miscalculation, like I'm selfish on my boat, or I'm not letting people come on it. When I have a ladder attached to it and a net attached to it, and I've said this boat is open for people to come on.
These niggas want you to jump in the water.
No, they don't.
Jump in the water and fish for them and then pull them on the boat yourself.
Well, then we're
gonna
have to have a separation, and you're just gonna have to call me or whatever.
And this is my point. My point is that we're all not the same.
No, we're not.
This?
And I love that about him. His tone sometimes, and being, his wife, it's a little bit opposite for me. I'm really, if he's fire, I'm earth, and I really be listening to him, and I'm thankful that he has fire behind what he says. But not a lot of people are convicted in anything. So to have a feeling and a belief that you have passion behind can come across like you're angry, can come across like, it's just got to be your way or the highway. There's 1,000 interpretations when it comes to passion. And that's what's interesting to me, is that people that don't, know you or contribute can have an interpretation of what you're thinking. And that's what we're here for. Everybody can contribute and say that their cookies are the best. And if people want to purchase those, then let them do that. I really... Even in going on Facebook, it's so draining for me sometimes because everybody is kind of going crazy. I feel like everybody is really, striving for something that might not be there emotionally. I think a lot of people are lonely, are looking for friends and family, and are looking for people to share the same pain with. I've noticed that this consciousness has gone into the sections of pain. Women that share the same pain are together, men that share the same pain are together, and people that want to kind of be painless are in, like, the painless, but even that's, like, painless means that you're addressing the things that are causing pain in your life. Once you address them, they dissipate and they go away. I'm really trying to address the issues and the things that cause pain so that they can go away. But, it's not easy to stand for something anymore nowadays. So I just encourage people to have principles and beliefs, even though, it's like popular right now to not really believe in anything but, money, unfortunately. But money can't buy you happiness. It really can't. And, hey, if you want to sell your greater to get the lesser, then we should allow people to do that. But shout out to everybody that is striving to love unconditionally, black, white, Asian, green, purple. What my husband does is he addresses the ailment. And unfortunately, there is a lot of people that are suffering that do, that do ride behind the title of being Caucasian and being white. There are black people that are in pain, but these white folk have taken it way too far. And really, in being a black woman, I know the adjustments that each sister that we make in order to make things comfortable, in order to make things at peace, in order to let people know I'm not racist, I don't have any problem with you. But, when white folk are always looking at you like, well, show and prove and jump to the hoop and perform and think, it's not something that they're necessarily saying as a general body politic as a whole people, but, you get your individuals that make up the whole. And I do know that there is pain there. And people that are holding on to titles of being white, I have to be black. I can't be anything but the black girl. And it would be great if we could all free up from the monikers and the titles and just be of one and of love. But that's not real. So thank you, Aseer, for addressing the reality of the situation. And that's hard. It hurts. But let's free up from the emotion and deal with what is, There is something in the world that's taking place where all white women can adopt black babies, but we can't adopt any white babies. And all these white women who don't know black people, I think that they're doing it to gain a closeness, to feel that a lot of women, oh, no, I'm not, I would never, and I'd love, they have convinced themselves that they are Mary Magdalene in it and that they are Mother Teresa in it. So for me to say that you've adopted this kid to do whatever is wrong, but, you know, a couple years later I look at something of Madonna's, and David, her little adopted black son, is in the back, you know, DJing at some show, and she's like playing one of the giant and I'm like, of course, this is what she does at home. David's used to Madonna doing everything that she does on stage in her house to him. But, you know, am I crazy for saying that? Is it whack to say that, you know, when I do see interracial couples, one party has to be totally devoid of who they are in order to make everything run? Like the black man either has to hate himself enough to only be around white people, or, you know, the black girl who's with the white man has only got to entertain white people and can't really be around black folk except the ones that are exactly like her. This is what it is, you know. I went to school as the only black girl in my class at Syracuse, had really close white friends, but always knew that there was a difference, always knew that this shit was going to drop. Like, okay, after school, reality's going to set in, and I'm not going to live on the Upper East Side. I'm going to be back in Brooklyn. And my multi-million-dollar friends who don't want to act like they're different are going to fall right into their trust fund lives, and we're probably going to not speak as much. And that's what happened. Did I, you know, am I a bad person in saying that was going to happen, or am I just keeping it real and saying that's what it is? I talk to a sister out here all the time about this whole yoga community. Great yoga, but we notice that the black teachers that are teaching at these white studios have white boyfriends or are lesbians. You have to either be a lesbian or have a white boyfriend in order to be a black woman that's accepted in the yoga community. Or you have to be obese. You have to be like one of the mammies, you know, that, oh, I'm taking care of all. You can't be 105 pounds, happy, healthy, in love with the black man, and going to teach people just teach people. It's like, oh, no, that's too much. We need you to be broken a little so you can be in here. The whole general hum of the yoga community, to me, is the ones that are really at the height of it, that are traveling and all that. It's money. It's wealth, and quiet as cats. A lot of these yoga teachers are healing from methadone, from heroin, from cocaine. So when they see and meet real yogis that don't even need a studio, it can sometimes be threatening. That's all. It's the only reason why I don't go to studios. It's not because I don't want to support and be a part of the group. And no, I would love to. If the group is toxic, and I don't want to be, then I'm going to leave the group to preserve myself. You know, if the village is unhealthy and all the men in it are a little suspect and all the women in it are, and this is my diagnosis, then I don't know if I'm going to leave my son in the mixture of a village where not everybody is healthy. I'm going to go and create a village of people that I feel are like-minded and that are attracted to me based on what it is I am and what it is I'm doing. That's it. I would love to share my gifts, and I do to everyone. But I realize that some people use those gifts and literally try to flip it, and who cares? It's like once you give it, you got to let it go, man. You have to really let it go and be gone. And, you know, I mentioned so much in a couple minutes because this is why I don't go on Facebook. It's like, you know, everybody's happy being, you know, where they're at, and I hope that this word science isn't driving people crazy. And I'm seeing sometimes that it does. You know, even talking to a woman the other day about, you know, she said, oh, you got to have another baby. You got, you know, you don't do it once. It's not real unless you do it twice. I said it was very real for me. I did it naturally. I did it the way that I felt I needed to do it. And to be honest, I'm going to start to share things that really I don't feel black women want to talk about all the time. You know, it's like if I'm coming from a community in New York that seems real holistic and, you know, healthy and all of that, then why are all the women unhappy and why aren't anybody in healthy marriages? That's something that I have to step back and start asking myself. The same thing, even though I really, really, really want to keep it real all the time, you know, people don't like honesty. So I've got to be aware that it's sometimes going to have an allergic reaction to some people, and to some people it's going to be loved and you know, eaten up by. And I say that to say, when people say to me, you got to do it again, I'm always like, do you know what I went through to even get my first here? You know, I'm 5 foot. Some women have wide hips and carry babies really effortlessly. But I'm about to go and really talk about what a cerclage is. You know, women that have to have little adjustments done because they lost their first child. I'm tired of hearing women sound so sad and sound like such victims because this community is so hard on everyone being the same. You know, if you're healthy, you have to have a baby in a birthing center. And if you don't, then it wasn't real. I had my son in LIU, and it was the most sacred experience for me. No one was there. I didn't have any drugs. It was 36 hours of pure mother meet earth and bringing this child into fruition. But I can honestly say that when I had my first son and I pushed him out at 7 months, no one was there, just like no one was there the second time. Certain times, it's like everybody is born with their individual birth chart, but people expect everyone here to go through the same rituals and the same rites of passage to become mothers or to become women. That's not what my chart is about. My birth date has a specific intonation for what it is I'm experiencing this lifetime. So maybe I had to lose, my first son in order for me to really, hi, Nina, good night, honey, in order for me to realize who my real friends were. A lot of my journey is about giving and realizing that what I'm giving, some people receive it in love. Some people receive it and are annoyed and resent me for giving it to them, but still take the gift and flip it for their own needs. I have to be very clear about people coming into my life and me loving them and knowing that it might only be for a short period of time, not to feel like I have to hold on to people and, keep them under my wing. People meet me, and it's so instantaneous and loving and effortless, and then it's like it's sometimes very difficult to reconnect. So instead of me trying to fight and reconnect, I kind of let go now and go, okay, I might see them in another month. I might see them in another 3 weeks. I'll call, I'll initiate, but when you don't get the result of, like, seeing people right away or whatever, fall back and see what the universe wants to give you instead. And that's new for me. Falling back is really new for me because so much of my upbringing was about pursuing, was about letting people know that were angry with me, that, hey, I'm not here to cause trouble. And that, it's great, but a lot of my teenage and beginning life was about convincing others of who I am. And then when you do that, you sound psychotic. You sound like you're selling a product of yourself rather than just being yourself. The same thing. If someone isn't good to you, then you separate from those not-so-good people. But if they're good to other people, then you sometimes have to be strong enough to allow those people that were toxic to you to be good to other people. But my first journey of being pregnant in New York, where I'm from, where I was raised, I didn't move to New York when I was 10. I was there as a young little girl, as I was 4 years old. Everything I did was in Brooklyn. So even when I met older women that loved Brooklyn, I realized that they just moved there when they were like 22 or 19 or whatever. So the experience of the charge of New York is different for me. I'm actually from Bushwick. I actually grew up in the neighborhood that so many people act like they, I grew up there. So I wasn't as holding on to it when I reached my 30s. After I lost our first son and he transitioned, everything became so clear to me as to even why this child came into my womb to begin with. Sometimes you're given a birth like that to really teach yourself not only how strong you are, how resilient you are, but it was a spiritual lesson for me. And I'm very, very clear as to my journey and knowing that I have a lot of lessons here that will be taught to me through the spirit realm. So, and not fighting it anymore, I let all of that go, along with the birth of my first son. But I held him. I knew what it felt like to want a child at the time. And I said to myself, if God gives me the opportunity to be pregnant again, I'm going to try again. But, to carry for 7 months and to do it all and to not have the baby, I remember when I lost the child, I would ride my bike in Brooklyn and go to certain events, and people would touch my belly, come up to me and go, how's the baby doing? How's the baby feeling? How you doing today, Selena? Where's the baby at? Like I might have a newborn and keep them away. I said, we didn't have the baby. We lost the baby. And literally, in that moment, I could read people's minds. It was like, oh, I'm so happy. It was illmatic, the magic that occurred in my life when that first transition took place of me becoming a mother and knowing, okay, I'm a mom, but I don't have the baby in my arms. That doesn't mean that it wasn't a real experience for me. That doesn't mean what I went through at Woodhall was not real for me. That doesn't mean that everybody that was affected in my life, I had friends around me that were impregnating their girlfriends, having beautiful babies, and I had to really condition my mind to not be resentful, to not be angry, to not be a hater, to not to say, wow, maybe it happened to me and Aseer to teach us something else. But for whatever the journey was, I had a midwife my first time. I tried the natural experience. I tried having faith in someone who was midwifing for over 25 years in New York. Really tried doing it. And for me, she gave me over Ursi. I remember, like, my third month, I was, peeing, and I had some burning, and I was like, wow, I never really burn when I pee. What's that? Found out I had a urinary tract infection. I didn't have urinary tract infections before I conceived my first child. But after having one, I was like, okay, you take a little herb, all right. Found out from a real doctor, like, no, that midwife was not supposed to give you any type of herbs until you were in at least your 8th month of pregnancy. So I'm like, it worked for everybody else for 20 years. This woman's been midwifing for 25 years. All the top women that I look up to have spoken well about this person. Why wouldn't I trust them? They've got such a good reputation. So I go, but my experience with her, what I brought out in this sister was obviously somebody who didn't call me a lot, who wasn't there a lot, who I really, really tried to have a relationship with, and it wasn't there, But it's not to say that I'm going to negate the experience. For me, I can honestly tell someone midwifing is great. Midwifery is a beautiful experience, but based on your history, based on who you are, that might not be the best decision for you. You might need not only a midwife, but someone else to take care and to look over. After losing my first kid, that's when I realized, like, wow, maybe I shouldn't be eating soy because I have one fibroid. You don't sometimes find out about this until you have a child because fibroids are stimulated by estrogen production. So when you are pregnant, I guess for me, that's when they were able to detect it. It was so small, below the size of a pea, that it wasn't detected until I conceived and had my first son. But I say all of that to say, after losing a child at 7 months, I didn't want to go back through the midwifery experience. I wanted to take my experience and go to someone who I felt could help me out as an MD, as a doctor. And I did that. Her name is Millicent Comrie. She's the #1 fibroid specialist in New York. She works out of LIU, Long Island University, and is an amazing woman for me. So I walked into her office with no insurance, no anything but, a story. And I said, sis, I really tried, and I think she looked at me and was like, we are going to have this baby. We are really going to try, Selena. But one thing I'm going to tell you is I'm going to tell you that I want you to have a cerclage. I think after looking at your chart and looking at everything, I think that the baby was just sitting low. Sitting low, and yes, coupled with the bladder infection and all that, you lost your first son. But if you have a cerclage, we're going to stitch up your cervix, and it's going to keep it tight so that, God forbid, you don't dilate and just go into an unexpected delivery in your 6th or 7th month, And I was like, oh, my God, surgery, alarm, hospital, alarm. You hear the fear. All of that was rushing through me. And I said, wow, maybe I need to confront what I'm most fearful of in order to have this sacred union, to have this child. So that means I have to go back to the hospital and go through a whole situation. And, I had lost my mom. She was over anesthetized. I had 2 major knee surgeries. I've had my adenoids and tonsils taken out. I've gone through a lot of physical bouts as a child in my development. So, I'm 29, 30. The last thing I want to hear is I need another epidural, another spinal tap, and a surgery. I need a surgery in my 3rd month. Why? Every other woman has babies naturally. Why am I going through this? Instead of saying why I, say you know the Creator is not going to put you through anything that you can't handle, Selena, and maybe you're supposed to go through it so that you can be an example and you can share the story, because so many women of color are so troubled and don't want to talk about things that are very natural and real. So that was my whole reason of not eating tofu and soy. I didn't want to, of course your little fake burgers are good and all that, but a fibroid, how is this? Maybe I started doing different research. I started asking other women of color, do you have fibroids? Noticed that most black women do have fibroids. I asked my white friends, do you have any? No, I don't really have a fibroid. I don't have that. So I started doing, of course, research, reading all of it, but going within, asking myself, is this something I want to do? Am I going to be strong enough with no support and help to go to a hospital and have? I did it because I wanted to have a baby. I wanted to become a mommy and hold my child. So I went through the spinal tap. I went through the 3rd month. I made it to 3 months, had it, the little cerclage. It was a 10-minute procedure that felt like a month of trauma to your vagina, okay? It just was burning. It was the most pain. And I sat there in the hospital with my little, Walkman thing on, and I said to myself, this baby's going to be okay. This baby's fine. My son, I knew it was a boy again. I asked the Creator. I said, if it's meant to be, I will see my little lion. I've always had a dream about having a little lion. So for him to be a Leo, for all of it, and he was premature, supposed to be a Virgo. So I laughed that the Creator really gives you what you ask for, and you have to sometimes let go, all of this metaphysics, all of this, it can make women feel dirty. It can make them feel like they're not good enough. It can make them feel like they're not natural and healthy, because they crave a steak. If your body is craving a steak and you happen to be a fire sign, it's probably because you need that raw, you need that charge. Once every 3 months, flush it out, get a colonic, but don't punish yourself for craving steak. If you're doing it for more than 6 weeks, then your body probably wants it. I don't crave meat. I crave salads. I crave really good fish. I crave cheesecake once in a while. I crave my cravings are more like dairy based, I guess, for the comfort and also just for what I like. But I say that to say, once every 3 months, I sometimes go and get a slice of cheesecake and just sit there and eat it, because that's what my body wants. That's what instead of driving myself crazy, I just do it instead of feeling like, I've got to live by some rules in some book that don't exist. And this is my journey as a woman here. But I say that to say, that is what a cerclage is. It's really a painful procedure that allows a woman to kind of calm down during the development of their child and knowing that, hey, I might not miscarry again. And I didn't miscarry. I carried up until my 34th week, my 33rd week, and Amor was still premature. But I say that to say I woke up, blood in the bed, alarm, oh, my God, I'm losing Olga. Rush to the hospital. This baby wants to come early. He's sitting on your stitch. So I've got to cut the stitch a couple days early, and you're going to probably have this baby early. But, Selena, you made it to 34 weeks. Baby's lungs are pretty much developed right now. Really allowing me to know that I made it as far as I could make it. And my body did as much as it could ask and as much as I asked it to do. So when people force me to feel like I'm not a mother because I don't have another child and how dare I don't give my son a sibling, I don't have a mother. So God forbid, if anything happens to me, I don't want my son to be without me or someone from his blood family. So for me, I want to be healthy and healthy mentally enough to take care of my baby and to be here for him. To go through the surgery again, I don't know if I'm emotionally strong enough to deal with it. And I'm okay in admitting that about myself. I'm okay in saying that it was so much. I don't know if I can settle and really emotionally be present to do the meditative work I know that is necessary to have the spiritual child that I've demanded and that I would want, that I would ask to be blessed with. The Creator gives you what you need, not always what you want. So even though sometimes I would love for Aseer to get donations from every listener, he doesn't get that because some people are just so tight I guess they see, I don't even know. I don't care to decode it anymore. What I do care to know is that we are in a world where either everything has to be the same, and really the people that don't feel a party to that get emotionally punished and get emotionally guilted into trying to be a part of the whole. And really, if the whole does not look well to you, don't feel bad about, diagnosing it like that and saying this whole is not well and I don't really think I want to jump in it. I don't think I want to do that. It's okay. But straight up and down, I had so many girls. My life was so interesting to me socially before I had Amor. I had my son, and literally, like, all of the sisters that I thought were really there just kind of faded. They just, within that first 2 weeks, they just faded. I didn't receive any phone calls. I didn't have my baby. And I say that to say I've been blessed after having my child. Like, don't worry, everything comes to you that you're supposed to have. In not having a shower, I had the most random people bless me with clothes and gifts for my son. Neighbors that I didn't even know, in Brooklyn, they were like, oh, well, my baby, he thing, and I just say, just beautiful blessings. And the Creator will come to your aid. It really will happen. But, again, if you experience something and you know what it feels like, don't let anyone or anything make you feel like you got to repeat something to show and prove to them that you can do it. As much as I would love to have another baby right now, I don't know if I can handle it emotionally. I didn't have any help for the first 4 years. And still, it's just this year that I've had a little assistance once every month. Aseer's brother will come by and I have like 2 hours to sleep in the morning. But I didn't have that life. I didn't have someone to take the baby and allow me to sleep. I didn't have that. And I'm not upset about it because what it did in lieu of is it created a really amazing bond with me and my child. I love my son so much that it's like, you don't have to talk to somebody. They can just look at you and know. That's what's existing, and I'm thankful for it. But I did the work for it, so I'm not upset about saying that this is what I could handle because I worked for him. But I don't know if I'm strong enough to do it for for another seed right now. And, have it affect this year. We didn't have sex for about 10 months out of that experience. It's a lot. And he didn't miss me. He didn't leave me. He didn't throw me. He was here. So I'm thankful, but I want to have a healthy marriage that's not, stressed by conditions that even though I want does not necessarily mean I need. So I say all that to say, I love you guys. I share that story. Again, it's why I even started cooking. We're here to share our gifts and our talents with people. And those people that, get inspired, I'm really thankful. But try not to be a hater. Try not to turn my yoga into like it's sick, yo. It's so weird that I can see people that have never studied. I can tell that they've never taken a yoga class. They got pictures in lotus position. Their arms are in the Om chant. They're going in. And I guess it's popular now, I really do. But I really want people to get the experience and not just to play the role, not just to look the part. Really go through the sweat, really go through the pain, the emotions, and be real. Be real about it. We all have talent to contribute here. But if you're focusing on what someone else does well, you're never going to develop and figure out what you do well. You won't. So so all those women that have fibroids, that are wondering why they can't conceive, really get checked out by a doctor, not just these holistic people. Face the doom. Some women that bleed a little longer might have endometriosis. I've told good girlfriends of mine, you've been trying to have a baby for 6 years, it's not happening, something might be a little off. It don't mean anything is wrong with you. But, you've been going through stuff. Things happen. Us to share our stories with each other. And what good is it to always act like you're just so blissful, bliss. There's nothing real. Nothing is real. The realness is when little conflicts occur and you figure out how to get through them. Not when you're just blissful, bliss, peace. It's like, are you that? Or are you really like smoldering with anger because you can't have a bagel? Little shit. But I love you guys. Let me let you go back to Aseer. And thank you for the support. I've got some really good stuff that I've been trying to write. Not trying, I am writing on my blog. It's cookingmorewithless.com and Black Mamba Workouts. I'm going to be showing a lot more recipes and things that I think can help people in terms of what I read about. And, again, to share our journeys and to keep it real. Like, let women know how it is to pump milk if you don't breastfeed directly with the baby on the titty. You know, I had the baby on the titty, that my son did not take a bottle. I wouldn't recommend that for anybody else, but, you know, he was premature. I was really emotional. I wanted to keep him there. Well, you paid the price, Selena, because now this baby does not take a bottle. So now you have to wake up and not let Daddy do his help, because Daddy tried waking up and feeding the baby, and he looked at him like, who are you and where is the titty? So, you know, these are the things that we marry ourselves to. We're supposed to share. We're supposed to give and love unconditionally, and that's what I'm still doing, regardless of who takes and doesn't show reciprocity, regardless of who isn't, you know, in a place of sharing and caring and wanting to be real. It's great. If I can inspire someone after meeting them once to do exactly what they think I do every day, then I must be doing something right. But I ask the Creator to all of your ears to send us some prosperity and to send us some funds. Because when there's $27 in your bank account and you give as much as my husband does, I don't want to have to feel like I need to cuss or I need to think or I need to force him to get a real. A real job is what he does now. But I've got to stay chill, got to keep my position in the background because I have to meditate and calm and really ask the Creator for the things that we are needing. You know, please donate $5, $1. I know people are out there charging $500 for classes to get you caught up in traffic court, to not tell you the truth about stuff. And people call us to remedy the situation, but it's not always, you know, I feel bad for people, so we do, but it's not always nice always being called to clean up the milk when it's spilled. It's just not. It's not cool all the time. So please spread the word. Allow people to hear about Dark Skull 418. We have a website, www.ds418.com. Please show your support. It's a $29 book. It's really inexpensive for what the information that's in it and for the good story. You know, we don't have good stories anymore, like things that make us excited to read when we wake up in the morning. So I ask you to really support those that are putting out the works and are trying to do it in a way that's just not, you know, some nigger shit, straight up. And I love everybody. I really do. I even love my haters and people that wish me pain and wish me not to do well and, oh, let me see if she makes it through that. Thank you. Thank you for teaching me how to free up from my ego. Thank you for teaching me how not to talk about you. And thank you, Creator, for allowing me to really be in a place where I'm not afraid to discover the parts of myself that I need to let go of and what I also can be doing better. So with that, please contribute and donate some funds. It's really tight, and it should not be. But I know that we are worth millions, and with the right listener and the right investor, it can change in a day where I can help employ all the women that I feel I'm attracting for a reason. I'll have a purpose, you know. We'll all have a purpose together. I can actually open up a working studio with hanging ropes and everything that I want to help and do all the great, glorious things. But without being a trust fund baby and without sucking a white man's penis next week and without selling my soul, it's going to take me a little longer. So I ask the support of true love and true people that hear us and hear the work that we are striving to give. Even today, I went to $24 because Blog Talk charged my car $39. I said, that's right. We pay to do this shit. I am paying to do this still, and we should not be. But I already know all the energy that I've received in terms of the emails that are thanking us. I know that we have purpose, and I know that Aseer's love and his work is received in love, but I'm really asking the Creator to cloud and the people to not support those that we know are disinformation provocateurs and are out there to be actors. There are some fucking actors out there. Let's not give them ticket money to watch their movies anymore. Let's really support Team Cordoba, support individuals that are doing it for real, support black businesses that don't support these street hustlers, that don't support these other niggas that they know are, charlatans and are causing this confusion. It's been good, though. And being quiet, all the whirlwind, it's been so windy here, I hear it coming to a lull again. And as well as the new moon, I am making my affirmation of an abundance of monetary prosperity resulting in funds, resulting in gold and diamonds, and resulting in the reciprocity of being able to create something and to be able to own something so that we can all have a central space that we can rely on. Because I'll build it. I'll do it. I ask the Creator all the time. I say, please just let me win a little, $350,000, a little lotto, because I will create the temple, and it will be rishmiculous. But, this is why, and keep on praying, and that's where I'm at. So straight up, love and light to all my family out there that is really not being bought by the trick knowledge, all right? Love you guys. Speak soon. Stay strong and well. And more says peace. All right, bless.
Peace. Peace. So yeah, on to add on or to piggyback on top of that too. Like I said, this is the time when we really need to respect what's really going on and not. Yes. You should really get it popping. I'll go after if you want. So it's something that we need to all be responsible for. You know what I'm saying? And not really get caught up in the wrong aspect, because everything that we've been talking about, these factors, these black devils been doing, is real. I'm not just saying this shit for my health. I'm not just out here just trying to talk stuff to get you to believe things that ain't real. I've been you've been going in Superhero Radio and in the lectures that I've been doing personally for years about how they eat black people, how they harvest black people organs, how they eat black babies, and all this other type of shit, and it's real. And because black,
I just forgot to tell you the donation page. It's dukeoftears@gmail.com. See, I'll put it out there, but I don't tell people where to send the money to. Let me make it complete. It's Duke of Tears, DUKEOFTIERS @gmail.com. There's got to be somebody out there that's like a miracle worker, so please send us the miracles and allow us to just use it for good. Thank you.
They are harvesting original people's children. Can you leave them? Okay. Original people's children and all of that. They eating them. They raping them. They all of that. All of these Caucasian women you seeing, nobody gave a damn about Jillian Michaels until she adopted that black baby. And now everybody jumping on this chick dick. I'm seeing this chick on Facebook, people getting this chick workout and all of that. What have these people ever done for you or your community other than kidnap your children? It's the same shit going on now, man. Ain't no difference than them doing that in diapers or ACS coming and getting them. And they're using them in rituals. They're using them to break down their genetic particles. If you don't believe me, go on my website, go on my Facebook page right now. And there's a listing that says injection of melanin nanoparticles to make the human body radiation resistant. So what that means is that what they are alluding to in that comment is basically telling you that your melanin keeps radiation out. Well, melanin itself absorbs radiation so that way you don't die of radiation poisoning. And what are these brain-dead, stupid black people doing? Out there bleaching their skin and trying to be as white as goddamn possible. What is this white man doing? He's taking as much melanin from you and your black baby and your stupid ass as possible. And I get upset when I start to talk about it because niggas think that this thing is a joke, man. Niggas think I'm talking conspiracy theory shit. I don't deal with theories. I don't deal with theories at all, man. Like, this shit is either real or it ain't. Stop using this westernized grammatical lexicon to juggle what it is you really mean. Aren't you tired of talking to people and hearing people talk with conviction, and they don't even know what the fuck they're talking about? Or worse, they know what they're talking about, but because they so egotistical and so caught up that you don't even want to hear them. They are harvesting your children, black man. They are harvesting your children, black woman. Think about that next time you're taking your baby father to child support court. Think about that next time you're taking your baby, next time you're supposed to pick up your child and then you don't pick them up, black man. Think about that next time you're in the hospital or whatever and y'all basically there to have the baby, but then as soon as the baby is born, y'all can't be together. What kind of shit is that, man? I don't know if they're putting it in the water or whatever, but they're doing something and these niggas is buying it. Meanwhile, everything in science is showing you that everything in science is based on you. So now they're coming out and telling you that your melanin is protecting you from radiation and that it absorbs radiation to such a degree that they want to start to harvest the melanin out of you to put it in them so that way they're going to be able to deal with the post-December 21st, 2012 world. Right? It's real. Okay? And these people think it's a joke. Not only are they doing that, they're using black baby aborted fetuses, not only in stem cell research, but in melanin harvesting research. Think about that. Not just aborted babies they using it now for, though. Not just them. They're using it for any type of... They're using it for any black person that they find dead. They harvesting their organs, man. We live in a country full of undertakers, man. And these niggas don't waste nothing. So when you go, and God forbid, a loved one or somebody wind up dying or class to the essence or whatever, you really better make sure that whatever they had in them is pristine in them when they leave, because they be taking shit out of them. You understand? It's real. It's not fear. It's real. Like, Selena really feels like I'm offending people when I talk like this, but it's real. I don't give a fuck if I'm offending anybody. It's true.
Well,
it's true. It's true. Regardless of who or what, it's true. You understand? And because nobody in the black, your president ain't talking about this. You know what I'm saying? Your rappers ain't talking about. Nobody is talking about this. What about the fact that they also have another thing on my website? If you scroll down, I have it there where it says scientists using melanin from aborted black babies to create solar cells. Are living black babies next? Yes. If they asking you that, then you know that it is. I'm not. Oh. You know what I'm saying? I thought you were saying something. But in the end, it just comes down to the fact that there's no one advocating for us, man. No one is advocating for us as original people to stop the genocide. And how can that be when you got a so-called black president or nigger president or whatever you want to call this nigga who will go on TV and basically say that there is no Holocaust in the world other than what happened to the damn Jews? When 4.5 million of those people, Jews that they talking about they killing, was all Moors, was all black people, okay? Was all original people that they was using to rediscover and redistribute the color bouquet and the phenotype of what Europe was. That's what World War I and II was about. It wasn't about no damn Nazis. The Nazis is over here. But again, we get it twisted. Niggas is looking at things from a different perspective. They looking at it from they trying to be domestic but have a foreign ideology. They trying to be here but then still claim somewhere else. It's like, no, man. One man cannot serve two masters. Either he love one and hate the other, or love the other and hate the one. It don't matter. And so what we have to start to understand is that you, brothers and sisters, are the original people of the planet, which means that you are the closest thing or representation or representative to the Creator that anybody got on this planet. So what that means is whatever they could do to you is whatever they could specifically do or try to symbolically do to the Creator. So if they can get you to adopt a national or a false nationality or whatever, then that's a way to get the Creator to do that. You understand what I'm saying? And you don't even realize that we are basically being screwed out of our inheritance by proxy. You understand? So when you read the works of C.M. Bay, he talks about the 5 sons of destiny, right? And who they were and what they represented in terms of the old world and how things was solidified and situated. You know what I mean? What this basically means is that there have been groups of people, men and women, but specifically men, who are born at certain times in history, historical history, to do certain things to bring about a different world change, a world view. You know what I'm saying? And for the longest, we have not really been doing the knowledge to how significant and important all of that really is, and how these people and these agreements that these people have made, or the things that they did in the world, how it affected our history in the times to come. You know what I'm saying? Have you seen those 2 Clock of Destiny books I had last night? I know, but they were out here last night. I'm just seeing. You know what I'm saying? So, specifically, CM Bay, for that matter, he basically listed what was going on with them and who they were in terms of when they would incarnate and, you know, what it is they were supposed to do. Being that he was a master astrologer, you understand, he had a very good idea as to how the birthing energies and the natal energies of certain people were able to bring about certain geological and physical changes in the world. Of course, now I'm looking for the damn book. I can't find it. But this is what it is. You know, it's like you can only do but so much, you know, and keep things as so ordered. But it's like the more I strive to do that, the more things be disordered and shit. So to hell with it. So when I was doing the knowledge, too, that if you get the Clock of Destiny, the books or whatever, you could do the knowledge to it yourself. But it's definitely something that every Moor should have. Just like you got the Circle 7 Quran, you need that Clock of Destiny as well, because it'll give you a more direct influx for understanding as to why things are so jumbled up. And it will also put you on a path of what they call the adept, meaning that you will start to put together certain things, start to figure certain things out that are not as clearly defined in, let's say, traditional Moor science. You know what I'm saying? You know what I'm saying? So when I started doing the knowledge in terms of Sons of Destiny, or what that basically represents, it represents, like I said, those people who are coming into certain people who are coming into that world stage to bring about a culmination or a change of, let's say, global affairs and politics. So there are always different people who come at different times to facilitate the movement of people from one way to the other. So C.M. Bay, as he described it, he said that there were 5 sons of destiny from the amalgamated nations in a sense. The first being Joseph Stalin, you know what I mean? His conception occurred while the sun was in Aries, which resulted in his birth of Stalin when the sun entered into Sagittarius, you know what I'm saying, with his moon in Aries, which explains why he was doing a lot of the crazy shit he did. That was 1879. Then you got Benito Mussolini. His conception occurred while the sun was in Sagittarius, which then resulted in his birth of Mussolini when the sun entered Leo. You see what I'm saying? With his moon in Gemini, which is why he was so duplicitous. Why they also called him the Great Two-Face. The next one was Roosevelt. You know what I mean? His conception occurred while the sun was in Gemini, right? Which then resulted in the birth of Roosevelt when the sun entered in Aquarius with his moon in Cancer. You see, which made sense because the American Republic was founded under 13 degrees Cancer. You see, so him becoming president was then in there, was then right in line with that astrologically. Then you had Emperor Hirohito of Nihon, which is now Japan. His conception started when he was in when the sun was in Virgo, which resulted in his birth when he entered the world as a Taurus, with his moon in Virgo, though, right? Then the last being Hitler, you know what I'm saying, whose conception started while the sun was in Virgo, which then resulted in Hitler coming down as a Taurus with his moon in Capricorn, you see. So, you see, he was basically coming from a horned animal perspective anyway, right? Makes a lot of sense. So if you look at what these people did individually in historical context, you can then see why astrologically it was very important for you to understand the zodiac and things like that to do so. So what I was doing, to equivalent to that, is basically doing a knowledge to the successive wave of Sons of Destiny that may have been something to us in terms of the acquisition or usurpation of the global Moorish Empire. You know what I'm saying? So a lot of these people, so in that, I basically drafted a couple of different lists that you could do the knowledge to. And you can see kind of why it kind of went like that. But instead of calling these Sons of Destiny, I would call these the Sons of Revolution, in a sense. Ra, which is really Ra's evolution, right? Or Ray's evolution, you know. So if we take it all the way back to the 7th century, the big boys back then was, again, Gibraltarique, where we get the term Gibraltar, the Rock of Gibraltar, from. Also the term, him and his sidekick Tarifa, or Tarifa-El, who basically gave him the idea that now that they crossed the Straits of Hercules, that they could basically start to charge people money for bringing any goods back and forth along the route that they took. Tariffs exist to this day. They're called international tariffs. So to honor him, they named it after that. So what you're seeing with this, or with Tariff and Tariq, is the first creation of what we would call maritime duty payments. You see what I'm saying? Then, besides Gibraltarique, another big boy from that time was Charlemagne. Charlemagne, who basically at the Battle of Tours made a deal with the Moors so that way they would not move further into the Southern Pyrenees anymore, which then also Charlemagne, being a Moor, being a Franciscan Moor, was down with that. All right? So it was Charlemagne, Abu Bakari, Mansa Musa, I should say, then Abu Bakari, then Salah ad-Din, right? Because I'm going from the 7th century to the 14th century. So we're going Gibraltarique, the Sons of Revolution then. Yeah, I found it. The Sons of Revolution then were Gibraltarique, Charlemagne, Mansa Musa, Abu Bakari, Salah ad-Din, Suleiman the Magnificent, and Jacques de Molay. All of these being Moors, Franciscan Moors, Moriscos. It's peace. It's peace. Selena said peace, Deron. She said peace. Thank you. So that's, let's say, from the 7th century to the 14th century. Then let's say from the 14th century to the 18th, or let's say the 15th century now to the 18th. This would be Muhammad ibn Abdullah, the great governor of the world, the Queen Anna Maria, right? As well as Toussaint Louverture, Napoleon the Corsican, Dende, Lincoln, Black Hawk, and General Washington. Going from the 18th century to the 19th century now is an intermediate period. Because from the 15th century to the 18th century is basically the destruction of the old, let's say, Moorish Empire and the rise of the Franciscan Empire, right? But then from, let's say, the 18th century to the 19th century is the denationalization and the rise of the amalgamated empire, okay, which is kind of what we're under right now. So in that, when we talk about the Middle Passage, we're talking about the Middle Passage of history that we were locked out of. Not the Middle Passage of what you perceive as the Atlantic Ocean. I'm sharing game with you now. This is what you call it. This is a whole Masonic code, you know what I mean, that they talk about. Just like when they talk about Rome, right? You got to understand that they're not talking about Rome in the context of Rome being in Italy. Because that place, like I said, didn't become that part of Italy, and the Vatican wasn't necessarily recognized in that aspect of Rome at that time. Because the Vatican state, as we understand it, like I said, was always something that came or was allowed to exist based upon the Moorish occupation. But then after the Moors fell out with each other, the Franciscan Moors of the Castile, because they were not Caucasian or Spanish yet, allied themselves with the Catholic system so that way they could be in control. You know what I mean? So it gets to the point where we got to start to look at the fact that after this point now, after, let's say, the 15th and 18th century, going into the 18th and 19th century, most of the people that's waking up, most of our people that's mentally dead now is going through the great middle passage, meaning the great amnesia, in which they will fall asleep in the land of Nod. The land of Nod being the evermost west, just like the term Al-Marak, or Marak, meaning the most of the ever point rest. But if we know the story of Heru, when he battled his uncle, said he battled him in the west almost to a standstill, almost to a point where they both went into almost a death-like slumber. So we are the Sun people, and we are representative of Heru, or the Heroes, or the Super Heru, then this is basically the time for us to come into that understanding. You know what I'm saying? So the sons, so now the sons of Ra's evolution, or the sons of the true understanding of who the lords of the planet really were, was now befallen on those of us who were still in the know, meaning those of us that were destined to be born here to start to bring about the real knowledge as to who and what was going on. So in that, if we start from the 18th century to the 19th century, we get Sheikh Muhammad, who was the first to bring Islam to America, or to reintroduce true houseofel and master Islam to America. And under him, he had a group of disciples. He had a group of adepts that he was then training, who were meant to go out and do what they were supposed to do to help reinvest us into our true republic and our true knowledge of self as the original people of the planet Earth here. Sheikh Deuce didn't go to Africa to do that. He was in Africa and came over here to help reignite those of us that was already over here through houseofel and master and what he called the Ahmadiyya movement. The Ahmadiyya movement was so big at one time in America that they was building like straight up Moorish castles, mosques and shit all over the place. And so they started trying to come down on them. So then from there, one of his disciples, one of the next sons, was a guy named W.D. Fard, who was the son of Queen Bee and Abdullah the Moor, who basically, the story goes, cultured Fard in, because what started happening was that in retaliation for that, the United States stopped all people coming from Africa, or stopped people coming from Africa in terms of immigration. Therefore, this shut down the whole aspect of, let's say, Asiatics trying to reinvest themselves in the American Republic. But because Fard looked like a white man, he was able to get through and hooked up out there with them devils in the Theosophic Society, as it was just starting to be founded by Blavatsky and them after they helped get rid of one of the other sons of Ra's evolution in its hemisphere, the great Dr. Pastor Beverly Randolph. The Lord of all Rosicrucians in the world, the last Lord of all Rosicrucians in the world, consecrated at the Dome, at the Palace Dome in France, by the Franciscan Moor, being that he was a noble, being the son of Edmund Randolph Bey, and the princess, his mother, who was a princess from. No, I don't think so. I don't know. I don't think so. Excuse me. So from there, from Fard, you know what I'm saying, going out there, hooked up with the Theosophic people, and then bounced. Wound up in Jersey. Wound up in Chicago or whatever, and then wound up hooking up with one of the next sons, who is Elijah Poole Bey. Both of them then hooks up with the adept, Noble Jew Ali, in the founding of the Moorish Science Temple. Elijah Muhammad, being one of the most gifted adepts in the whole temple, going so ham on it that he was out there what the Moor told me was that he was out there just giving people nationality cards on the street for free. Now think about this. In 1929, he giving people real nationality cards at a time where they all feel that they slaves and the worst thing in the world. He told them, no, you're not Negro, black, or color. You are Moor. He basically doing the same thing he's doing now. Only thing, he was giving the nationality cards away. So the white man came, locked him up, came back out. That's when he basically had to go. So where did he go? He wound up going to Chicago. You know what I'm saying? Why? Because he, being a descendant of the Stark people, and a.k.a. King Blackhawk, one of the sons of the revolution that I talked about prior to this batch, research Black Hawk's War, and you'll see the Chicago Black Hawks and all of that. He set it up. So from there, Nation of Islam gets set up there. Moorish Science Temple gets hooked up. CM Bay, who again is the right hand of Prophet, then starts doing all that. But then analogous to them, there's another son named Marcus Garvey. Then there was Sweet Daddy Grace. Then there was Father Divine. All of the knowledge that we are building on today in terms of the metaphysical aspect of it, the occultic aspect of it, the Asiatic spiritual technology of it, all of that is coming from these people specifically. Specifically. You understand? The Kemite stuff, all of that stuff, again, in its true form, in its most as pure as it could be to help reignite us in terms of the knowledge, came from these 7 men. Then, from then, you had, like I said, you got to get past W. Randolph, an honorable mention, and also His Majesty, because he then became a fulfillment of what they all was down with. Because during the campaigns of Raza Lula, Sheikh Deuce Muhammad's pops was sending money for the cause to them. So there was a hookup again with all of that. So what I'm also showing you is that all of these people that you are seeing who basically had movement of people who followed them, all of those people at the top of those movements were working towards a certain end to help initiate everybody into a higher understanding, back to almost jumpstart their consciousness, which means that all of these groups essentially were different steps. Same way like you go to school, you don't stay in kindergarten, you go through different steps. Just like now today, you might start out a Christian, but then you may get knowledge of self through the God, and then you become 5%, and then from there maybe you go into NOI, and then maybe from NOI you find out about the Moors, you get into that. But then like your cousin may be NOI, you know what I'm saying? And they may be Hebrew, and then his wife may come from a Hebrew Israelite family. Either way, we're talking about ideological influences that are all basically reminiscent of the same idea. Who is the original man? Period. You know what I mean? So if we then jump further now from the 19th century to the 20th century, we get Adam Clayton Powell, right? We get Father Allah, Planet 13X, Justice. We get Yahweh Ben Yahweh, right? We get Malcolm, right? Huey, Jeff Fort. The El Rukins and them, specifically Jeff Fort, they basically were the last international group of, let's say, conscious Moors who were working to build the system, a universal system that had a lawful aspect, a illegal aspect, an international aspect, just like America. You got a lawful side of it, an illegal side of it. They was doing the whole gamut, and they was getting funding from Gaddafi. But the United States couldn't deal with them necessarily as domestic terrorists, one, because that type of legislation didn't exist at the time, and at the same time, they were claiming their true Moorish nationality as a separate nation anyway, which they had the right to do. But, again, due to the illicit aspects of what was going on with some of the El Groups and stuff, it became more of a way for the man to use that against them. Basically saying you can't break a law to enforce a law. And just as C.M. Bates said, just because the divine laws of the universe and the laws of the Constitution don't necessarily, we are held to a higher standard of more than even it. So even though it don't really apply to us in the sense of enforcement, we still got to respect it. We can't be breaking laws in it to siphon money out of it to set up our own shit, even though that's what they do. That's why we have to distinguish ourselves as individuals to fully be recognized as a government. As great as what the Empress did, because her ancestor married into a foreign leagueship, meaning when Louis married Anna and Louisiana is formed, you have a joint thing where you have the autochthonous people or the original people of this landmass entering into a political marriage in which the succession of the land would pass through the line of the woman to the husband, who again is a foreign Moor, Franciscan Moor, who is in direct contravention to what was happening with the rest of us, which then made them allies to the French, but then also put them in a position against those nations of us over here that was against the French, like Toussaint, like the Ojibwa, which is the Chippewa, like the Kickapoo, like the Comanche. A lot of people was against the whole Franciscan incursion based upon rumors of the agreement between those Moriscos of Spain, those Franciscans of France, and those Britannians of Alban. So what we also have to do is understand in geography and everything is flipped up too. Stop thinking of Rome as in Italy. You got to start looking at it from the perspective of how it happened. The Habsburg legions and the Dutch pirate Corsair conquerors, conquistadors, all of these people were over here as mercenaries, which is why we had to form the Marines to kick them away. You understand? Of which then, in the hem, from the halls of Montezuma to the shores of Tripoli, represents the aspect of dominion that we set up to protect ourselves and preserve our freedom over here from the old tyranny of the waning empire. That was now Franciscan, and then from the Franciscan aspect, let's say the Franciscan aspect starts from 1863 to, well, let's say it starts from 1666. It has its beginnings in 50-55, but comes into full existence by 1666, and then from 1666 to 1775, let's say, it becomes consequent. So that way, by between 1775 now and 1865, you have the rise of it and the fall of it. And then from 1865 to, let's say, 1899, you see now the rise of the amalgamated empire, a.k.a. the Nazi, white, quote-unquote, white Freemasonic Luciferian empire that then inherited the spoils and the peoples from that time before. So there's a book called Wild Frenchmen and Frenchified Indians. Get this book. Because the culmination of our displacement also took place between the Civil War of 1812 and the Spanish-American War. Those two specifically were some of the last ones that we, in terms of our own army, that was separate from, that the United States government was subordinate to, you see, existed. So by the time we were coming back from the Spanish-American War, we had already been redesignated and things like that. And so the Moorish empires that existed in now what we call the Mexim, which is now New Mexico, started to be broken up and dealt with as individuals. There's a map from 1817 that I have that has New Granada on one side of South America, and then on the other side it says New Spain, and then all within the South American region up into the Yucatan and all of that, which is the Fertile Crescent. Now you got to understand that at the time of the Battle of the Spanish Armada, there was no England in the place that you call England. That was the Isle of Man, or Alban, as well as the Isle of Wight, and that island was under the jurisdiction of, again, the Moors, meaning the Britannic Moors who served their king of Albion, who ruled over the albinos, you see what I'm saying, which was the wild Germanians that they had already conquered from the times of Septimius Severus. Because once they were germinated and became, what they would be, they would shipped off and taken to what is now the wild hills of Germany and left away. So what we're saying is that during the grafting process, there was a system that just became a perpetual system of commodity in the ancient or super ancient worlds, where once these people were grafted or whatever, they were taken into parts of Albion or whatever and locked behind Hadrian's Wall, locked behind the Straits of the Dardanelles, locked behind the steppes and the Great Wall of China to become or whatever it would be, And certain societies forgot about them, and certain societies remembered, and certain societies that was amongst the overall empire carried on the experiment, you understand? But this experiment created these different races that then started to inhabit the place that we had already left behind due to the fact that we were moving into the phase of becoming more material anyway. So by the time of the actual fall of everything, something had to be created, a system had to be created to protect us from everything. And that became the establishment of the United States for America, government, federal or federal government. So by the time, like I said, of our era coming into it, where the last of the sons of the revolution, of Raspberry Revolution, start to initiate their work, starting with, let's say, Adam Clayton Powell, Class 13X, Justice, Dr. York, Yahweh Ben Yahweh, and these peoples and their movements and everything was set up. So, yes, a lot of these movements became infiltrated. Yes, some of them were initially infiltrated or set up to be infiltrated and actually turned out to be true. But in the end, once the leaders were taken, everything kind of like fell into basic play. So by the time it got to, like I said, Malcolm X, Malachi York, Martin Luther King, Huey Newton, that was pretty much a wrap. So by the time, like I said, Jeff Fort, who is, like I say, the last, it's ill that it started with Sheikh Deuce Muhammad the Moor wearing the fez, ends with Jeff Fort in the United States over here dealing with the Barbary powers, a.k.a. Gaddafi and Libya and them in the late 70s, 80s or whatever with them. You see? So it's a full circle thing going on. The last Panther then being Hazrat Muhammad, So then on their side, so the only thing we left out were the scholastic aspects of these people like that existed within the 18th and 19th century as well, that would provide a literary scope and the backup research for what the speakers in the so-called groupings and nations and religions that were being founded to reignite the Heru in us. People like J.A. Rogers, Sheikh Anta Diop, John Henrik Clark, Dr. Ben, Chancellor Williams, Tony Browder. You know what I'm saying? These types of people start to lead the work. Ashraf Quasi, Wata Ashby, Barrier Shango. So aside from their own personal allegiances and secret allegiances that may or may not have existed, it doesn't still take away from the fact that we are still benefiting from all of the stuff that was done today. But all of the stuff that's done today is based upon the fact that from the time of, again, Sheikh Deuce Muhammad, who was also in league with the Mahdi, who was destroying British rule and colonial rule of European Moors in Africa. Get the movie Four Feathers, see what the Mahdi was doing to these people. And he was in league with Sheikh Deuce Muhammad. So there was this whole backlog thing. There's this whole secret relationship between people like Malcolm X and Patrice Lumumba and these people that had to keep it like that and almost had to break it up because together it seemed like too much. And the people, us, we were physically ready, but mentally not ready. So now we're physically ready, but so now we're more mentally ready than physically ready. to reverse, which then means that all we have to do is basically follow the breadcrumbs or follow our steps back out the forest, you know what I mean, which is the wilderness, and understand that when they talk about the sinking of the Spanish Armada, taking over the Spanish Armada and the invasion of England, England was over here in the 13 colonies. Therefore, if you look at the 13 colonies as England and look at South America as Rome and look at the quote-unquote conquistador and Dutch pirates, these people that they're saying is sending all these people back to a place called Spain, that didn't come into existence until after 1526. And even then, we're still people about Moriscos. If that was Spain, then what was the kingdom of Galacia over here? What was the kingdom of Salamanca over here? What was the kingdom of New Philippines over here? What was the kingdom of Navarre, just like Navarre in Italy now, over here? Because it was all over here first, and they just flipped history on you when they flipped the map upside down. So all we got to do, brothers and sisters, is focus on the reality of what happened and solidify a consistent body of work or paperwork that reflects that. And once given to the proper channel, away from all of the fake sovereign citizen crap that they've been putting out for the past couple of years, or using the term sovereignty in the context that they're using to allude to something ancient to freedom. What you got to understand is that we are the original people here. Only the Bays and the L's can reconstitute the original government, because that's how we set it up. And there's certain channels that exist within the so-called government that are Freemasonic and so-called Black Boule Masonic, but regardless of all, both are subordinate to the original when it comes in its true face. So for those people that want to do the knowledge to what I'm talking about, please join us this Wednesday night at 9 o'clock for our online class where we get entitled American Indian Freemasonry. And its Moorish character. It's going to be very insightful, and it'll be stuff that you can use that will further clarify where we're going with this whole understanding of what a so-called American is, or true American is, and how that relates to you. But because we've been trained to hate, quote-unquote, America and not hate the, quote-unquote, United States, we're getting it twisted. They got us hating our own government and loving theirs because you have a two-sided system and dollar in play. So, again, for those people that want to holler, want to give donations, please do. We greatly need it, you know. The more the merrier. It's dukeoftears@gmail.com at PayPal. If by any other means you'd like to, you can hit me up at houseofel@hotmail.com. If you would like to support in the way of, let's say, joining our class this Wednesday that gets deeper into some of the subject matter that we went over tonight, please email us at houseofel@hotmail.com. Also check out www.aseerdukeoftears.com as well as www.darkskull418.com. Please check out the Dark Skull 418. Recommend it to your local bookstores, comic book stores. You can give them my email directly, and we'll stock them up. Every bit helps support the cause and what we're striving to do and create the clarity that we need to get the real things done. So ashe to the ancestors, ashe to everyone, and we'll see you next Monday. Those people that want to holler, again, for the class, it's this Wednesday, 9 o'clock online. It's going to be powerful, man. And, again, everybody that came out to the lecture yesterday, Currency Wars, thank you for all the support. Thank you, Ms. K, and Abundant Energy Natural Market. Big up Tariq. Big up Asim. Big up the whole clan, you know. And thank you. Peace.